How dangerous is government involvement in our banks? I'm now joined by one man who thinks the likes of RBS and Lloyds are doomed by their political controllers. Matthew Lynn is a Bloomberg columnist. He joins me here in the studio. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning.
Political banking, is it the bane of our lives?
Well, not yet, but not yet. But just wait, just hang on a little bit, and it might be. I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting developing story because there's this kind of idea, just as you were talking about a minute ago, that you know the banks can. The plan at the moment seems to be the banks to stay, state control, certainly Lloyds and RBS, and quite a few of the continental European banks as well, for 4 or 5 years, and then they'll get them gradually into good shape where they're great businesses again, and then they'll come and refloat them and hopefully recoup all the money. But I mean, the flaw, it's a cunning plan, as they used to say on Blackadder, but the flaw in the plan is that these businesses are going to stay the same. And I think what you're starting to see is the businesses are starting to change because they're actually state-controlled. And I was looking at one of the examples, is they're becoming much more sensitive to pressure groups. They're getting much more political control, and you're going to see a lot more of that.
And then you've got some great examples in your piece about the sort of pressure that they are under and they're going to be under.
Yeah, I mean, I was picking up on a couple of things. I mean, RBS, for example, they're in trouble in Canada with indigenous Indian groups about investments in the oil industry. They're getting a lot of flack because they're one of the people financing the bid for Kraft. If Kraft goes ahead and bids for Cadbury's, RBS is there lending the money. Now, as a bank, that's the kind of thing that banks do, of course. But you have to say, when they get flack for this, what are they going to say exactly? Because if the government, why are they supporting a bid for Cadbury? If the government steps in and helps banks, why don't they help the chocolate makers as well? At least the chocolate tastes good. So I mean, I think they've put themselves in a very difficult position.
But the protesters have got a point, haven't they?
The protesters have absolutely got a point.
From their side of things, it's valid, all the criticism.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be incredibly hard for the banks to answer these questions. Because, in the past, they've always had protesters. I mean, banks, any kind of big companies, they've always had pressure groups making complaints about them. But in the past, they could always say, well, it's a free market. We have to do what the shareholders want, what the market wants. But,
Does that mean that AGMs are going to be vast affairs, rather than...
Well, they probably will. But I think the interesting point is they'll have to listen. Because they can't really just say, oh, it's a free market, because in a free market, RBS doesn't exist anymore, does it? So they've lost that argument. And I think, that's just one example, but I think we're going to see, this kind of creeping politicization of the banking system, where what they're going to do is become an arm of the state because they're owned by the state. And that's fair enough, but it's not going to be good for business.